If there's no objection, since it's at 6 p.m., I hereby call to order the City of West Sacramento special meeting of the Transportation, Mobility, and Infrastructure Commission for July 13th, 2020. Madam Secretary, can you call the roll?
Certainly. Commissioner Love?
Present.
Commissioner Parker?
Here.
Commissioner Zimmer?
Here.
Vice Chair Paul Hamus?
Here.
Chair Hirsch?
Here.
Commissioner Chrisman Kaufman? Not present. And Commissioner Wetzel? Not present. So that's all, folks. Sorry, my humor.
No, thank you very much, Madam Secretary. To begin tonight's meeting, I should read the following statement. Pursuant to the Governor's Executive Order N2920, members of the Transportation, Mobility, and Infrastructure Commission and staff will participate in this meeting via a teleconference. To reduce the spread of COVID-19, members of the public are asked to watch the meeting live stream or via Wave Cable Channel 20, and to submit comments in writing by 5 p.m. on the appropriate date. To submit a comment in writing, please email Jennifer SC at cityofwestsacramento.org and write public comment in the subject line. In the body of the email, include the item number and/or title of the item, as well as your comments. All comments received by 5 p.m. will be provided to the Commission and posted on its website. The comments submitted shall become part of the record of the meeting. That takes us to item 1A on tonight's agenda, presentations by the public on matters not on the agenda. Madam Secretary, are there any public comments?
There are no public comments.
Thank you. In that case, item 1B, Commissioner Communications. Commissioners, are there any communications at this time?
I have a comment that I'd just like to acknowledge the city's efforts in. Recently, there's a social media post put out by the city saying that they are doing some targeted enforcement in areas experiencing a lot of speeding lately, especially with fewer motorists on the roadways. There's been an increase in speeding, and especially in those corridors where it's really prevalent. So I'd just like to thank and acknowledge the city for those efforts.
Thank you, Vice Chair Polinas. Any other commissioner comments? Seeing none, moving on to the consent agenda. There is one item, consideration of approval of the minutes of the June 8th, 2020 meeting. Is there a motion regarding the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second that motion.
Madam Secretary, we have a motion by Commissioner Parker and a second by Vice Chair Polhemus. Can you please call the roll?
Yes. Roll call vote. Commissioner Love?
Aye.
Commissioner Zimmer?
Aye.
Commissioner, let's see. Well, Chrisman Kaufman isn't present, and neither is Wetzel. So Chair Hirsch?
Aye.
Commissioner, who else did I call? I'm getting confused.
I believe you've called on Commissioners Zimmer and Love and myself, and then Commissioners Parker and Vice Chair Polhemus made the motion.
Yes. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Did Vice Chair Polhemus?
Aye.
Okay. So we have 5 ayes.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. 5 ayes and the motion passes. Moving on then to the regular agenda, item number 3, consideration of an agreement with A3 Mobility LLC, doing business as Gig Car Share to operate an electric car sharing program.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. Can everybody hear me all right? Great. I'm joined here this evening with Sloan Morgan, who is a New Markets representative for Gig Car Share and A3 Ventures. She's available to answer any questions that the commission might have, as well as myself. I have a presentation here, so I'll go ahead and share my screen. Can everybody see that all right? Fantastic. I'll just go ahead and start the presentation here. Back in August 2017, the city of Sacramento received a directive from their city council to work with Electrify America and the funding that was received from Volkswagen's Dieselgate lawsuit from back in 2016-17. Part of the SAC to Zero campaign was to launch an all-electric EV car sharing program in the city of Sacramento. In addition to adopting a resolution to move forward with that car share program and the SAC to Zero campaign, the staff with the city of Sacramento created a framework for future car share operators in order to secure permits to park within the public right-of-way, and created a framework for special parking privileges and special fees to allow that to happen. Back in March 2019, Sloan Morgan contacted the city of West Sacramento and Commissioner Parker might recall, because he was actually engaged in some of the first discussions that we had. So we discussed a little bit about the upcoming launch of Gig Car Share in Sacramento, in which there were 260 vehicles that were being launched, all electric Chevrolet Bolt vehicles that were being put into service, which made up the largest all electric car share fleet. So we continued as a city staff to talk with Sloan Morgan and work with her to help develop a framework where we could expand the service that started in Sacramento into West Sacramento. There were some difficulties there because the SAC to Zero campaign and the funding with Electrify America was relegated to the city of Sacramento. So we had to receive permissions from both the city of Sacramento and from Electrify America in order to expand into West Sacramento. We worked with Sloan to develop some limited home zones that were later identified as being acceptable by Electrify America and Sacramento for an initial launch. I'll go ahead and start this. Some of the interesting features of the Gig Car Share are that there's no parking fees, because those are all going to be paid for by Gig through an agreement with West Sacramento, just as the framework is for the city of Sacramento. Insurance is included, and as long as you're parking in home zones, you're not going to be receiving any fines and are not going to have to pay for any parking. Charging is also covered. The home zones that we identified in the city of West Sacramento, which are the locations that you can park any Gig vehicle. We are working through a grant that we received, Green Region Grant, to expand electric vehicle charging throughout the city of West Sacramento. And we were working in order to identify some parking sites that not only have limited restrictions that would enable Gig to park there, but would also be acceptable sites for future electrification. The Chevy Bolts that make up the 260 vehicles in the fleet, as I mentioned, are all electric. There's room for 5. They all include bicycle racks and a number of conveniences in the vehicles. If you have taken them, they're really quite nice. In the home zones, you can pick up and drop off vehicles anywhere in Sacramento or West Sacramento. Currently it's only in Sacramento. However, that is going to be changed with the launch of Gig in West Sacramento. So you can actually pick up a vehicle anywhere within a home zone and drop it off either in Sacramento or in West Sacramento. And we have a number of locations that we've identified. So on the presentation here, you'll see 2nd Street is highlighted, as well as a portion of D Street. Some of you may recognize that area as having 45-degree parking along the street. We've also identified area between G Street and 4th Street on 5th, which is right adjacent to the Capitol Yards, as well as that area between 4th Street and 3rd on G that is just north of the Capitol Yards area. Another location that we've identified is the new off-street parking lot that's on Tower Bridge Gateway and 7th. That area has also been identified as a location for electric vehicle charging stations. The area on 5th Street and Bridge over in the Bridge District currently does have electrical vehicle charging stations there. And we are also looking at an area on West Capitol Avenue between West Cap and Merkley. It's the overflow lot for City Hall. Finally, the last area that we've identified is just south of Joey Lopes Park on Evergreen and Sycamore Avenue. The rates for Sacramento and this have just changed as of today. It was announced. The per hour rate is actually going to be increasing from $15 an hour to $16 an hour. And the per minute charge is increasing from 40 cents per minute to 44 cents per minute. Right now, there is a promotion that's happening. It ends at the end of July. Instead of the $85 per day rate, it is currently $59 per day. Right now, I will verify this with Sloan, but we are looking to officially launch gig next week. So you'd have a full week in order to take advantage of the promotional rate. There are service fees that are included with the program, and that is fees that are related to having to clean the vehicle or for any safety issues that were experienced as a result of a driver, whether they're smoking in a vehicle, if they're parking outside of a home zone, or if they've received any parking violations. I just included these fees here in case any of the commissioners were interested in knowing what some of those rates are. This is a program of AAA. AAA members do receive 10% off on every gig trip, which requires being a AAA member. There's also a golden zone or gold zones where if you pick up a gig for a short term, and I believe that's if a gig is low on charge, or if it's been sitting for an extended period of time, you can get a special rate to pick up that gold gig and take it to your destination. In working through the agreement with GIG, City of West Sacramento identified some requirements in order to operate. As is the case with our micro transit operations, as well as our via West Sacramento On Demand operations, the city does require sharing of data. We are requesting quarterly user reports to be provided, which provide anonymized information, such as the amount of time that folks are using the vehicle, what is the median trip length, what are some demographics, but never sharing any identifiable information about members. Fleet rebalancing is important. So GIG will be monitoring the home zone sites and redistributing the vehicles as needed. As part of this, the city of West Sacramento are interested in seeing gigs not just operating along the waterfront, but also in areas that are underserved and areas that are identified as disadvantaged communities in West Sacramento. So the redistribution of vehicles will include moving into areas that may not see regular use. However, these areas are also going to be monitored very closely by GIG to identify if areas are being used or if they're being used more than anticipated or not enough. And we've built in enough flexibility that GIG has the option to move some of these sites or add to these sites if we need to at a later date. We also worked out parking fee payments as part of the agreement. GIG will do an accounting of the parked vehicles, and for audit purposes, we'll be checking on this on a regular basis. And then GIG will be remitting the full payment of any parking fees that are accumulated in the prior month. What we're asking of our commissioners right now is to provide recommendations and comments. We are planning to take this to the City Council for approval on the 22nd of July to the City Council. So I would incorporate any of the comments of the commissioners at that time. And if you have any questions of myself or of Sloan, we are available to answer them.
Great, thank you, Mr. McCoy. Commissioners, are there any comments at this time? Commissioner Zimmer.
Okay, so I'm curious about the home zones. It looks like there's they're in good areas, or, for going out and for doing stuff, but that's a limited number of spaces that one can access a car. And I'm just curious if that's just because it's a pilot program, or what are the thoughts on having limited home zones as opposed to a much wider area like they do across the river?
I'll have Sloan weigh in on this a little bit, but as I had mentioned, the funding that provides the ability for GIG to operate is through Electrify America and Sacramento's Sac to Zero campaign. So the difficulty there is that there are 260 vehicles that are spread across the Sacramento area right now. And what West Sacramento is asking is for GIG to expand into West Sacramento, which in turn has the potential to dilute, albeit slightly, the services that West Sac or that Sacramento through the Sac to Zero campaign and Electrify America had set aside for the city of Sacramento. Perhaps because Sloan was involved directly with Electrify America and the city of Sacramento, she could provide some comment related to what the approval process was that we went through, which was an extended period of time.
Yes. Hi, everybody. So yeah, Jason touched on two issues. One is, yes, we want to be cognizant that we were brought in as part of the Electrify America Green Cities initiative. So that's sort of our first mission. But we did get permission with everybody's support to be able to extend, and Electrify America does report to CARB. Everybody wants to be able to replace gas miles with EV miles. So it's thumbs up there. And then on the practical, so that did take a little bit of time just to make sure everybody was on the same page. But so we're thumbs up there. The next issue is a more practical one. And since we've been operating since 2017, we feel strongly that if we grow too fast, or if we don't grow in a very smart way, that we may actually have a negative effect on our trips. So as you can imagine, well, we're in this weird COVID thing, but previously people were, calling TNCs left and right. They had jump bikes. There were other options, right, available to them. And so the real issue is density. If we grow over too much land, we reduce the density of the cars. And what that means is that extra 2 blocks, we could lose the trip. So we watch app opens around our locations. So we're going to be really, really carefully watching these sites. We think that this is the right amount of sites in dense areas, that we are going to have a lot of people around each one of these sites, and it's going to, be very positive. We agreed with the city, thanks to Larry and Jason, that we have flexibility to either add or reduce, because you can imagine that GIG, right now it's been crazy time with COVID, so we need to stay flexible as well. That being said, Commissioner Zimmer, if there's other areas that we think can utilize these trips, we're all for that. And we made it pretty easy in the agreement to add areas. Technically very, very easy to add these areas. We would have to report on the LIC DAC status to Electrify America and to the City of Sacramento partners. But other than that, we can move these as needed.
Other comments from the commission?
I have a comment, Chair. Thank you, Sloan, and thank you, Jason, for the presentation and for the commentary. This is something I requested last year, was hoping that we'd be able to extend GIG over to West Sacramento. I received several comments from friends and acquaintances at the Bridge District at events, frustrated with that they had to drop the car off on the other side of the river and walk all the way over, basically making their trip and GIG useless. So I'm really excited to see this working underway. For trying to redistribute vehicles to disadvantaged communities in West Sacramento, will there be on behalf of the city, will there be any education or any outreach efforts targeting users in that community or potential users in the community, so that people understand how to use it? And will there be any additional kind of advisory or what's what I'm looking for, correspondence, like a hotline for ways that they could call and contact for additional information on how to use it?
Well, I think, and Sloan, you can speak to this as well, but I think there was a good rollout in Sacramento that GIG had done to help educate users on how to use car share and use the system. It's a very simple download of the application. The one thing that we did not do here was to have a dial-up number or something where folks could try to reserve a vehicle without use of a smartphone. At this point, that we are just starting this out, and we wanted to see where the market demand takes us. But we definitely wanted to be located in areas of disadvantaged communities. As far as providing any special instruction, no, I think we're just planning at this point to do a general rollout we're working on starting next week, and providing announcements in the local paper, the council newsletter item, and any additional advertisement on the part of GIG in order to let the folks know that this is out in the community and it's available.
If I could add a bit there. So the good news is that, sorry, Jason, I forgot to tell you this, that yes, you can operate a GIG without a smartphone. It's not nearly as seamless and fast, but basically because we have a really great customer service team since we're backed by AAA. So if you hear about GIG, you call the number. The 800 number is the same number that you would find if you Google. You can ask to go through the whole sign up process online. It's a little bit old school. You have to fax in. I don't know if anybody even has a fax anymore. You have to fax in a picture of your driver's license. I mean, so it's old school, but you can do it. And then what we would do is issue you an RFID card, which is a radio frequency identification card. It's kind of like the Connect card or the Clipper card, but there's actual money on it. And a person can walk up to the car, touch the car, and get in the car and use the car using that card. It's not as easy. You don't have the app to be able to see, where the cars are. But if you see a car, you could walk up to it. If it's green, you can touch the RFID card on it and get in the car. And we send that to members if they're interested in the card as well. So in low cell phone areas, you really want to have the RFID card that helps you. So that was the first point. So Jason, sorry, I didn't cover that very well with you. It's a good result. And similarly, our member care team, I think, covers, over 100 languages or over a broad amount of languages. So We're ready to be able to talk to anybody who wants to be a gig member. So that's another point on the sort of equity issues. On the rebalancing issues, it may look like we're using, AI to do this rebalancing. That's really not what we're doing yet. At some point we may be there, but really what we're doing is we are watching. We can't see where cars are going when they're driving. For personal, and for privacy, obviously we cannot see that. But we do have a screen where the cars they come up, and then, if a car is moving, then we're not seeing it. And then when it parks again, it's up there. So we're seeing a flow of cars, and we're going to try to meet that flow. Those are for the people that easily find gig. For people who may not find gig, we would ask, and we're in a tough situation with COVID as well. So we are really looking to be, to really support people's trips. Obviously we want them to walk and bike and do all the other things, but if you're going to take a car, we're really excited to be able to get you into an EV car. And so to support those trips, we're trying to find people who are in, different parts of our organizations are searching for people, like at colleges, in business, for commuters. So we have strategic initiatives for these big groups. So commuters are pretty much out, colleges are virtual. So we are really pivoting. Because of COVID, number one, we have redoubled our efforts to make sure these cars are clean. That's the top priority. So we have a hot steam vacuum that goes into the cars. And anytime that one of our people are there, fueling or recharging a car, we also, we aren't cleaning them with the hot steam each time, but anytime we are there to touch the car, we also are cleaning the 5 top touch points. There's also bacterial, there's the spray in the car in a little gig branded tube. So you can put the lotion on your hands. And then we also changed the app saying, if you have COVID or been exposed to COVID, don't get in the car. And then lastly, if someone reports that they did get exposed to COVID, we have a pickup, we have a truck come, a flatbed, the car is just picked up, taken, it sits out there for 3 weeks, and then we go through the cleaning, recommended cleaning mechanism. So main thing is we want people to feel confident using the gigs. And then, yes, I know this is a little bit of a longer answer, but yes, we're looking for all manner of people to try gig. And we're pivoting, we're happy for any people of all stripes to try gig, and we want to support those trips. And then I'll say lastly, we pivoted now because we've lost college students and commuters. We're pivoting to having 3-day bundles, 7-day bundles where you could have the gig for 7 days, and even trying month-long rentals. And the rates are really, really amazing. So we had over 50 people sign up from Sacramento to try that test. So that's our pivot to try to, stay strong during COVID. Sorry, that was a long answer, so I'll stop there.
Appreciate the long-winded answer. And I do, as soon as we're able to get our micro mobility fleets up and running again, I think this would be an excellent option for households to, those who desire to be car light or car free in their future, to give them the tools to be able to do that.
Other comments from the commission? Commissioner Parker.
I was just going to say, and thank you both for the presentation. I know that when this was launching in Sacramento, I selfishly wanted to see it in West Sacramento. So I'm really happy to see this being discussed. So thank you both for all your hard work to get there. I know that as an overall system, there's around 260 vehicles. Do you have any idea of what that kind of dispersion will look like in West Sac? Do you have a target number that you want to have in the home zones for West Sacramento? I didn't catch that number.
No specific number. I think we'll probably on launch day, we'll probably move over with 10 or 12 cars, and we'll just put a couple cars in each spot and then see what happens. If there's a Garth Brooks concert, there's going to be a lot of cars there, but in general, I think we're just going to watch the flow and learn from that. And we're going to know a lot more in 2 weeks and a month out. We do have a great team that's rebalancing these. Kind of going back to Jason's presentation, we do have Gold Zone. It's paused right now, but Gold Zone and Golden Gig are ways that when we're coming up on a 72-hour alert, because no car in California can stay for longer than 72 hours, we can turn on the gold zone. It has a very small discount on the per minute trip. And it's just the color somehow attracts people when those cars move faster. So we do have ways to be able to manage the balancing, rebalancing, and we'll be using those in West Sacramento as well.
I want to add to that as well that we received a number of requests, especially in the Washington District and Bridge District, from residents who were looking to use gigs. We had a number of folks who worked at CalSTRS or worked for General Services that were really interested in seeing that happen. We had requests from folks at Capitol Yards. So where we worked with Sloan to site these locations were also areas that the city recognized as areas where folks were actually asking for them to be located. So we're hoping that we'll see instant demand from these sites.
I think that's important to get. I think the density part is important, right? To get the user experience there. One question maybe for you, Sloan. I don't know if this is something that you did in Sacramento at all. I'm not sure, but I knew some of the other micro mobility. There's different rates that are sometimes offered for individuals that have are from a disadvantaged community, or if they are on social security or something like that. Are there other rates or opportunities potentially for any promotions or things that you can engage some of the community that may not necessarily think of it as a first opportunity, but to try to expand to some of those communities that we really think would advantage from having the system, but may just not access it currently?
We don't have special rates, but we are able to say that there's no subscription fee or minimum fee. There's no monthly required fee or anything like that. You can get in the car for as little as $2, which is just $2.50, I think it is, which is just a couple of minutes in the car. That being said, we are working with the Air District in Sacramento on a number of potential pilots for low income folks. In my experience, we have grant dollars in Oakland. We really still had we've had a lot of difficulty trying to get low income people in the cars. There's a number of more invisible barriers. People aren't necessarily banked, or their debit cards are really tight. So there's just a number of issues. We're, it's our brand promise, and all of us personally are really keen to try to make this work for as many people everywhere. So you'll find in me a strong advocate for trying to move, gig in all neighborhoods. But like I said, sometimes we found there's more invisible barriers that we're not able to break. I'll keep you posted through Jason on what happens with this air quality, the Air District. We're going to be siting gigs at a low-income apartment complex. We're not charging there, but the cars will be right there, and we're going to try to do marketing to them. The Air District has grant funds. They're going to try to help people try gig and get into that habit. We're happy to give out promo codes. We can do a 1 hour promo code, which is $15, or I guess it'll be $16 on August 1st. So happy to share those with all manner of community to try to get people started and feeling comfortable in the cars. And then, of course, marketing materials, digital or otherwise, we're happy to do that as well.
Great. That's all I had, Chair.
Comments.
I just have one other thing. So Jason, you were saying launching next week, but I was thinking that we're still a week out of the 22nd when the city council meets.
Oh, that's correct. I'm sorry, I misspoke on that. Yes, it is a week out from the city council meeting.
Okay, yeah. So we're tentatively planning for the 29th. We're flexible, but that's sort of our thing, our thinking right now. And then there's one other part of the program which also is paused. So the EVs can go back and forth between Sacramento and West Sacramento, no problem. But we also have a program that's really a regional mobility, and that is that our Prius fleet, which is over 500 cars in the Bay Area, they can go back and forth from either way from the Bay Area to Sacramento, but only the Prius fleet. So you can take a train miss a train or have more people in the car and want to get in a Prius, you can drive the Prius back and stop anywhere in the Bay Area, including 11 parking lots in San Francisco or 26 miles of home zone in the Bay Area. We're planning on turning, once regional mobility is turned on again, we are planning on using that in West Sacramento. We'll pay a little bit higher parking rate because it's a gas rate versus an EV rate. And we're prepared to make that reporting, depending on the kind of car that's parking at those parking locations that were shown on Jason's presentation. But that is currently paused just because we're kind of in a weird time.
Thank you. Other comments from the commission? I'll jump in then, Sloan, and say thank you for the presentation. And as a resident of West Sacramento, I am incredibly excited to see an electric car share enter the city and serve the city's residents. I think having that tool in the city's multi-mobility toolbox is just another exciting way that we can move forward to accomplish so many of our mobility goals and our environmental quality goals. I do have a couple of questions. The first one, and you touched on it slightly to Vice Chair Polhemus's question. Right now, given the COVID-19 situation, there probably is a lot of concern around any shared device. Jump bikes are one example, and a car share by its very nature is much more of an interior environment. Could you talk a little bit more in detail about the cleaning process that's currently underway, and then also how GIG communicates its cleaning process to reassure its customer base? Oh, I think you're on mute.
Sure. The first thing I will do is I will send this in the chat. So you can check out a blog page that summarizes what we've done. So the first thing that we did was, as soon as this crazy COVID thing happened, we took all the cars down. We voluntarily paused every single car. So we took all 500 cars down, and then we cleaned every single car so we felt like we were starting fresh. And we actually got some of the AAA folks who were not able to work for other reasons, and we really just cleaned everything and started fresh. So in terms of how we're cleaning, we have a green steam cleaning, solution. We've been using it before, but it turns out it works for COVID. And because it's steam clean, it gets into hard to reach spots. As I mentioned, we also put the hand sanitizer in all the gigs. And then we're following, monitoring the situation and making sure that we're following all of the best practices from the CDC. That said, we are not washed, each car does not get cleaned between trips, as you can imagine. So we also count on the gig community, and it is good. We do feel like we do have a community. The gig community has really stepped up to make each other safe. And what that means is that they're bringing wipes, they're cleaning off the steering wheel and stuff with their own wipe, in addition to the hand sanitizer that's in the gig. And then in the app, when you get into the car, it asks you, hey, don't get in the car if you have COVID. So there's alerts to tell you, hey, don't do this. What else? I think that's it.
Would a potential user of the app have any information about the cleaning procedure you just described, or
yes,
might be able to go on the website and check it out for themselves that way?
You can't go on the website, but if you want to know, okay, I'm standing in front of a car, I want to know when it was cleaned, we can tell you that. And again, we rely, we're not hiding behind anything, just call the 800 number. We have an MSC, a team that's ready 24/7 to answer those questions. And because everything is about safety, our customer satisfaction rate has not dropped during this time. We've been maintained a 4.7 customer satisfaction rate. So we know this is really important to people. We're spending the time and answering those questions to make you feel comfortable. And equally, we're in the car, we're in the cars too. So it's for us, and it's for our teammates, and it's for our members. So we're happy to tell you the person you talk to can look at the car and say when it was cleaned last.
Great, thank you, Sloan. My next question, I don't know if it's more appropriate for you or for Mr. McCoy. Just looking towards the terms of the contract between GIG and the city, So it's my understanding it's for a 12-month contract. Jason, can you talk a little bit about what sort of budget impacts it has on the city in terms of revenue? Is it simply through the parking permit fees that the city sees any change to its fiscal situation?
So, it's a lot like the micromobility and what's happening with our transit through VIA. The city is not trying to make any revenue off of the operations. It's just like any business where they seek a permit to operate. We're working to try to facilitate that. What we're saying is that in those locations that are going to be occupied by gig vehicles that would otherwise be earning revenue for parking, gig will be providing those parking rates back to the city so that we're not losing revenue that we'd otherwise have. But we're not seeking any additional revenue from gig for the operation of the car share.
Got
As
it.
far as the contract goes, this is a pilot, essentially, even though we're not truly calling it a pilot. What we are seeking to do as staff for West Sacramento is much like what City of Sacramento did, is establish a broader framework for allowing additional car share operators to work in the same space. So, thankfully working with Sloan has been fantastic, and we were able to come up with a good framework to kick this off. And then we're just going to take this opportunity to, as we work with Sloan and figure out what's working, what's not working, we can modify the framework and then adopt that at a later date.
Got it. And then from everything that's been presented today, it seems like GIG is a great partner to kickstart the city's future framework when it comes to electric car shares. The other question I had regarding the contract is in regards to the parking fees that the city currently has, and Sloan mentioned at the start of her presentation that GIG is just now changing their user fees slightly. Does the contract have a locked-in rate, or does it allow both the city and GIG to change parking fees or user costs during the term of the contract?
Sloan, I'm going to pitch this over to you because I know you were working with Larry Lee, who is our parking manager, directly on some of those terms. Yes,
you can update your rates. We expect that you're going to update the rates at some point. We also have to pay the special fees. So for the 900 Bridge Street, it's sometimes $12 if you've got some sort of event nearby. So we'll pay not only that higher $12 fee for a special event, and then Larry will update me whenever there's a change, an annual change to the fees, and that will be included in the new fees.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
My final comment. Sorry, go ahead, please.
I was going to say there's no provision about you having anything to say about our fees, but there is a provision that you would be updating your parking costs and we would be paying them.
No, understood. My final comment is just to reiterate what several of my fellow commissioners touched upon, and that's the issue of equity and making sure that underserved communities across the city will be able to access these and possibly in the future have additional home zones that make it more convenient to access it. And I certainly understand the reasons for having the initial home zones in the Bridge District and the Washington District. That's where a lot of the densest car-free households are in the city at the moment. But I do hope that eventually the home zones do expand to other more diverse parts of the city. I noticed that under the current plan, some of the home zones include Joey Lopes Park along West Capitol, which I think is great, as well as the City Hall overflow parking along West Capitol. Perhaps those can be models for future home zone additions in areas like Bright Park or the Nugget Shopping Center or Linus Cafe, areas where there's enough high traffic that it's not a dead zone, but also that it's more geographically spread out throughout the city. Other than that, that's my only other comment. Commissioners, are there any further comments or questions? Seeing none, then there is the recommended action for fold. First, providing comments to the city staff on the agreement, and second, recommending that City Council authorize the city manager to negotiate the terms and enter into an agreement with GIG. Is there a motion?
Made a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Zimmer, a second from Commissioner Love. Madam Secretary, can you please call the roll?
Certainly, Chair Hirsch. Commissioner Love,
Aye.
Commissioner Parker, Commissioner Parker.
Sorry. Aye.
Okay. Commissioner Zimmer,
Aye.
Vice Chair Polhamus,
Aye.
Chair Hirsch,
Aye.
and Commissioner Wetzel and Commissioner Chrisman Kaufman are absent. So there's 5 ayes.
Great, thank you. The motion carries. Thank you very much, Sloan, for the presentation. Moving on then to the next part of the agenda, the General Administration Function Part 2, Item 4A, TMI Commission Calendar. The next regular meeting of the commission is scheduled for Monday, September 14th, 2020. Item 4B, oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner, Madam Clerk, are you? I thought I saw your window highlighted.
Oh, that's strange. Oh, that's because an email came in and it rang.
No, not a problem. Item 4B then is reports from city staff.
I just want to thank the commissioners for the flexibility for these special meetings. Because of COVID-19, a lot of things change quickly, and I really do appreciate the commissioners' flexibility and adaptability to attend some of these special meetings, and we will do our best to limit them to the extent feasible in the future. I do not have any other reports.
Thank you. Item 4C, future agenda item requests from the commission. Are there any future item requests? Seeing none, item 4D, adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
That's a motion from Vice Chair Polhemus, a second from Commissioner Zimmer.
Okay. I don't think we need to do a roll call vote on adjournment, Chair Hirsch.
In that case, it was great to see all of you, and I look forward to our next meeting. Bye.
Bye. Good evening.
Seeing everyone.
Bye.